Michael Jordan won everything the world dreams of. Championships, fame, respect. But years later, he returned to one quiet place from his past. Not for trophies, not for cameras, but for a memory he never faced. What he found written there wasn't anger. It was a truth that hurt more than any loss. And it changed how he remembered love. Forvern, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Oh, dive into what really happened. He never thought he would come back here. 4 years, this place existed only as a memory. Quiet, distant, unfinished. Yet now, as his car slowed near the lake, everything felt suddenly real again. The small lakeside cafe stood exactly where it always had, calm and unbothered by time. The wooden benches were still lined up near the water. The gentle sound of waves brushing against the shore echoed softly, just like it did years ago. Time had moved on. Lives had changed. But this place felt frozen, as if it had been waiting for him to return. Michael Jordan stepped out of the car slowly. The air felt familiar, almost heavy. To the world he was a legend. Champion. A name written into history. A man who had everything most people could only dream of. But standing here, none of that mattered. Here he wasn't a superstar. He wasn't a winner. He was just a man walking back into a chapter of his life he never truly closed. This was the place where he once believed his future was written, not in trophies or titles but in love. Years ago, this cafe had been filled with laughter and nervous excitement. He remembered the way his heart raced that day. The way his hands trembled slightly as he searched for the right moment. He hadn't chosen a stage or cameras. He hadn't wanted applause. He chose this quiet place because it felt honest, real. When he asked the question, it came from belief. Belief that love could be permanent, that commitment could be stronger than pressure, and that some things were worth slowing down for. Back then, he believed love was as powerful as his will to win. Now, he wasn't sure why he had come back. Maybe it was curiosity, a need to see if the memory still hurt. Maybe it was regret, the kind that grows quietly over time. Or maybe his heart needed answers it never received. As he walked toward the entrance, a strange heaviness settled in his chest. Not fear, not sadness, something deeper. The kind of feeling you get when you realize that no matter how successful you become, some parts of your past still have the power to change you. And as the door came into view, Michael knew one thing for sure. This visit was going to remind him of something he could never win back. The moment he stepped inside, the past rushed back like a sudden wave. The soft smell of coffee, the gentle creak of wooden floors, the quiet hum of the room, everything pulled him backward in time. For a brief second, it felt like nothing had changed at all. His eyes moved naturally toward the corner table, the same one where he had once sat, heart pounding, hands slightly shaking. He remembered how nervous he was that day. Not before a game. Not before a final shot. But before asking a question that could change his life forever. Sunlight had streamed in through the window, reflecting softly in her eyes as she smiled at him. He remembered studying that moment carefully, as if his mind knew it would one day become a memory he would need to hold on to. He had rehearsed the words again and again in his head, afraid that even he, someone known for confidence, could fail at this. When he finally spoke, the proposal wasn't flashy. There were no crowds, no applause, no grand gestures. It was honest, and when she said yes, time felt still. For a long while after that day, Michael believed life would slow down. He believed love would be his safe place, something steady in a world filled with pressure, expectations, and constant movement. He believed no matter how loud life became, love would remain quiet and strong. But life doesn't always respect promises. Fame grew louder. Responsibilities multiplied. Schedules became tighter, heavier, and unforgiving. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Slowly, silence began to fill the spaces where conversations used to live. The same drive that pushed him to be great also pulled him away. Love didn't disappear suddenly. It faded quietly. Not because it was weak, but because it wasn't being fed. Eventually, love became something they talked about in past tense. Something they remembered. Not something they lived. And then, one ordinary day it ended. No dramatic fight. No angry words. No headlines for the world to consume. Just two people sitting across from each other, realizing they had grown in different directions. Standing there now, years later, Michael felt the weight of a painful truth settle in. You can win championships. You can reach the top. And still lose what matters most. And that realization stayed with him, heavier than any defeat he had ever known. As he turned toward the old corner table, something unexpected caught his eye. At first, he thought it was just another mark left behind by time. But as he stepped closer, his breathing slowed. On the wooden wall beside the table, carved lightly, almost carefully, were words he had never seen before. They weren't bold. They weren't loud. They looked hesitant, like the person who wrote them wasn't sure they had the right to leave them behind. The letters were uneven, slightly faded, but still clear enough to read. I was here. Waited. But love needs time, not trophies. Michael froze. The room around him seemed to disappear. The sound of cups clinking. The soft music. The movement of people. All of it faded into silence. His eyes stayed locked on the wall as his mind tried to understand what his heart already knew. Before he could speak, the cafe owner noticed the change in his expression and walked over quietly. She came here years ago, the owner said softly. She sat at that table for hours. Didn't order much. Just waited. He paused, then added. Before she left, she asked if she could write something. I didn't stop her. Michael read the words again. And again. Each time they felt heavier. There was no anger in them. No blame. No bitterness. They didn't accuse him. They didn't demand anything from him. They simply told the truth. For the first time, the realization hit him fully. Not as a champion, not as a public figure, but as a man standing alone in front of his past. She didn't leave because she stopped loving him. She left because she was always waiting. Waiting for time. Waiting for presence. Waiting for moments that never came. The trophies had grown. The victories had stacked up. But love had been placed on pause. Quietly, patiently, until it could no longer wait. Michael felt a tightness in his chest that no loss on the court had ever caused. This wasn't defeat. This was understanding. The wall didn't judge him. It simply held the truth he had avoided for years. And standing there, he realized something painful and clear. Some messages aren't meant to be loud. They're meant to be found when it's already too late. Michael sat down slowly. His eyes fixed on the table where everything had once begun. The chair felt heavier than it should have. He rested his hands on the surface of the wood, tracing invisible lines as memories passed quietly through his mind. For most of his life, he had believed success required sacrifice. That pain was temporary. That if the goal was important enough, the cost would always be worth it. Winning, he believed, justified everything. That belief had shaped him. It had driven him forward. It had made him great. But sitting there now, he understood something no victory had ever taught him. Some losses don't show up on scoreboards. There are no numbers to measure them. No crowds to react. No replays to study. They exist quietly, growing in the spaces where something important once lived. That day, Michael realized something painful and humbling. You can train your body to its limits. You can sharpen your mind until it becomes unbreakable. But if you don't protect the people who love you, success becomes very lonely. The words on the wall weren't written to hurt him. They weren't written to blame him. They were closure she never received. Words left behind because there was no one left to hear them. She didn't demand explanations. She didn't ask for apologies. She simply left her truth in a place that once held hope. And now, years later, those words became the lesson Michael never learned in time. Not during the championships. Not during the applause. Not when the world called him unstoppable. He stood up slowly, the weight in his chest steady and real. Walking back to the wall, He placed his hand gently against the carved words. The wood felt cool beneath his fingers. He leaned in slightly and whispered words no one else could hear. Not for the world. Not for fame. Not for redemption. Just for himself. Because some realizations arrive too late to change the past, but just in time to change the man who carries it forward. And in that quiet moment, Michael understood the real cost of winning. When Michael Jordan left the cafe that day, nothing outside had changed. The lake remained calm, its surface reflecting the bright sky above. The wooden benches stood quietly along the shore, untouched and unmoved. People passed by, living their lives without noticing the moment that had just taken place inside those walls. The world, as always, kept moving forward. But inside him something had shifted. As he walked away, Michael felt lighter in some ways, and heavier in others. Lighter because the truth was finally clear. Heavier because clarity often comes with responsibility. He wasn't carrying anger. He wasn't carrying blame. He was carrying understanding. For the first time, he fully understood that greatness doesn't protect you from regret. Success can bring applause, respect, and recognition, but it cannot protect the heart from what it ignores. And love doesn't wait forever, no matter how powerful, talented, or admired you are. That visit didn't break him. It softened him. It stripped away the armor he had worn for years, the belief that strength meant pushing forward at all costs. It reminded him that real strength also lives in presence, in listening, and in choosing what matters before it's too late. As he reached his car, he paused for a moment and looked back at the cafe one last time. He didn't feel sadness. He felt gratitude. Gratitude for the lesson. Gratitude for the reminder. Gratitude for the truth he could now carry with him. Because sometimes the most important victories don't come with noise. They come quietly. They arrive when the crowd is gone. When the lights are off. When no one is watching. Long after the cheers fade, the trophies gather dust, and the spotlight moves on, what remains are the moments that shaped who you became, not what you achieved. The words on that wall weren't meant for the world. They were meant for one person. And as Michael drove away, he knew he would never forget them. Not because they hurt, but because they taught him something no championship ever could. Some lessons change your past. Others change your future. And the ones that matter most are written quietly, when no one is watching.